This is a study from a piece that I'm doing about the character Medea, the play Medea, which is deeply, deeply fascinating. The story of Medea is this. It comes from the era of, or the story of Jason and the Argonauts, which some of you might know. The Golden Fleece is all very exciting. And he sails off into the Black Sea and ends up in a strange, far, far away land from the Greek world, and he pinches the Golden Fleece and brings it back as a proof of something to a very deceitful king who, anyway, it's all very adventurous and Greek and ancient and stuff like that. And he meets this woman. She's a queen, or a princess at least, of the land of Colchis, I believe, which is in the Black Sea where the Golden Fleece comes from. They run away together. She helps him to steal the fleece. She's obviously got the hots for him, at least. Maybe she wants to get away anyway. And they escape. And after some years together and some children later, Jason decides that he wants to be with another woman who will facilitate his career, apparently. And she goes crazy and then so kills her two sons. And that's the basis of the story. And this story had relevance in ancient Athens when Euripides presented it, because it was about the outsider, the barbarian woman, and her very strange, different way of being, and also to some extent about justice. So anyway, that's the old story. This is a piece that I wrote. Are you sure you know the story? Or do you know the one you need to know? It probably makes little difference, since it is clear you or I will only know what we need to know. There is an inner mechanism that flips that switch. We believe what we can. The difference in people, it seems, is that some of us are aware of this connection between need and truth. Wise ones can acknowledge and hold their fire and smile like actors do, knowing there is a choice. For a strong, vibrant, peaceful city, we must control the story, we who know the difference. It might be the case that any man or woman can allow themselves this realization that capacity is not a talent, the effect of training or breeding. No matter how long a philosophy prevails, the notion of a democracy or equality, let's say, to use a couple of issues being bandied about today, there will be among us natural democrats, natural people of equality who can allow a variety of motivations and opinions and not be stifled by it, and those who cannot, who will participate, who will cast their lot, believing wholly that if the election goes against them, the electors were deceived by malevolent agency, that their own contingent must remain aggrieved in opposition, out of power, and bide their time. Does this sound like you? Did Medea kill her sons? Did she? Did she kill her brother? Part of the story. There is a story of this woman in an age of victims. Today, she is enacted as a victim. She cries and she wails. Why? For you. I knew her, and she was no victim. So perhaps both stories are only what you or I need. A child killer driven to the terrible by the thing even more terrible. This is the story she was invented to tell to you, for you, you, who after all take the cake as child killers. This pitiful version will be the impulse of the storyteller today to reconcile her to a deceitful time of killing children, but butter must not melt in mouth of your self-portrait, you, O audience. Onwards, I shall make a play more accurate of a woman, not strange but brilliant, a threat to the ones who dawdle around her and who need stories of victims to identify with. So that's the bit. And the reason that I'm recording this, putting it out there, is that it fits in, a lot of it fits in with my feelings about the problems of having a world of religion. Really, the people who participate in a democracy cast their lot, believing wholly that if the election goes against them, the electors are deceived by malevolent agency, are essentially people of religion. They have a personal connection to what righteousness is, not shared by the other. Right? It's the basis of sectarianism. If contemporary monotheism was what it was cracked up to be, we would be okay with other sects of the same cult, or however you define those two things. The problem is that we don't. We know that from history, and that's its failure. So the notion in Medea's time, in Euripides' time, in the time that he was writing, the time of Socrates, the time of Pericles, the time of the great invention of democracy, was that it was necessary to stand back and look at the world as it was. Right now, we've got two candidates for President of the United States who both tell us they are believers. They're believers in a religion famous for its righteousness and the contingent brutalities. So the interesting thing, so that a Medea comes along in our world, in our much narrower post AD world or post BC world, is we don't have those women. We have two Marys. We have the hooker and the Madonna, and variations on the theme. Of course, we have a much larger variety in reality, but in our imagination, in our mythology, in our moralities, the only way we can conceive of a Medea is that she's a criminal, and that we must try to understand why she committed the crime she did, though we do it in war all the time. So it's an interesting conundrum. But that's my personal take. What do we do? What can we do with Medea? What can we do with Phaedra? What can we do with the Agamemnon? What can we do with Antigone today, where the moral and religious world is so utterly different, and where our leadership, by and large, are people of what they call people of faith. In other words, Akamas, my character, is saying that those are the other people. Those are the people who need to be controlled by non-believers, essentially. Yeah, and I think that one of the neat arrogances of Christians, or arguments I've had with Christians, is they'll talk about the transcendent person, the wise religious person who believes in God. But the problem being that once you create this authority in the sky, your own, and then you realize that there's Muslims running around with their own, and Jews running around with their own, and God knows what the Buddhists and the Hindu are doing, and the Taoists, the rest of the world. And what all of us do is we all say, no, I'm right. And therefore much bloodshed ensues. It's really quite simple, but hard to solve.